What's up, guys? Getting ready to build a new little project. It's nothing crazy, nothing all that exciting, but I figured my newer channel here, I probably should actually have some fab stuff on it rather than all the other stuff I've had so far. So I'm gonna take you guys along for the ride. You probably can see there's a big old pile of steel back there. There's also that project, which I'm gonna video here soon. I'll show you the drawing here, and we'll get going and do some cutting. I really should go into drawing school, shouldn't I? So yeah, here's my just horribly rough drawing. We got to make, we're making a door frame to go in a pipe building, which if you don't know what that is, you can look up like the, I don't even know what you look up, but it's a horse, like a temporary horse building, but it's a little more permanent, set kind of permanent. So anyway, we're going to frame in the door and then make two swinging doors that only swing one direction, which will be nice. That'll be simplistic. So we got to be 12 foot wide, which actually we got to be 11.7 wide, because there's these little posts down here in the corner. We're going to go around those. We're just going to make it a square frame. We're going to use 3-inch wide angle to cover this little gap here, which is kind of a difference from the original design that I went with. 9'4" tall. The top is going to be square tubing, and the bottom, and the two sides will be the 2-inch by 3-inch angle, and then the doors will be angle on this side and this side to have like a positive stop. And then there'll be tubing on this side and the bottom, because the bottom is going to be held off the ground, probably 2 inches, an inch, something like that. So yeah, as you'll probably notice as we go along, I'm more of a kind of off the cuff sort of deal. I obviously don't have a lot of energy into my drawings, and I'm actually making two of these, two of the same. One's going to be 11.7, one's going to be 11.8. We already have our door. It's getting barn metal put on the doors. We already have the doors must be 811, because that's what the metal is going to be. So see a little note here, we're going to have a little raised ear to attach it. What I don't have marked is I'm going to have a kind of like a 1 foot wide ear right here to attach it to the pipe. And then it'll attach with the angle on this side. And I'll go through, I've got some cool hinges right here. I say cool, they're just bullet hinges, but they're 10 inches. They're huge. So as you can see, they are quite large. Got some spring-loaded gate latches that I'm gonna inset this into the tube and weld that in. That should be pretty cool. So yeah, as you can see here, we got a pile of metal. I got some square tube. It's just 0.65 2x2. Doesn't have to be just crazy strong. So there's that. We got 3x2 angle, 2-inch angle, 1-inch angle, and then we've got some of this 1-inch here that's going to be a cross brace going one way in the door. So let's get to cutting some metal and see what we come up with. All right, here is my saw, my main saw. Nothing special. It is just an old jet saw, 7x12. Pretty rough around the edges. It has had a long life, but a very reliable life. Yeah, it's got a few bearings I need to fix and some different stuff, but I tell you what, cut straight as an arrow. I have never had any issues with it. Poor thing was, even when I moved, I dropped it from about 3 feet up. Bent some of the hinges, dented that. I mean, it had kind of a rough go there for a little while, but still cuts great. And I prefer a bandsaw when applicable, because of you lose so much less material. I've got a big chop saw. I've got a little tiny chop saw. I don't even know where it's hiding, and I use them, and then on metal, I've got a big wood cutting chop saw that's got big stands that stick out, and for cutting aluminum, but it just takes so much material, and it's noisy, and there's just that aluminum one, there's just shavings everywhere. It drives me crazy. This, which I need to clean it, but you can see this, it just all is contained right here. it only takes roughly less than a 1/16 of material, where that other one is, the aluminum one is close to 3/16 of material. So yeah, so this is my saw. I've been cutting some 45-degree stuff, so I'm gonna get that switched over and we'll start cutting. Also, another thing I need to do is I really need to replace this blade. I have not done it in a long time, and you probably can't see it, but it is dull as all get out. So I got my fence straightened out. Super easy on this saw. I just put a straight edge against the blade down low here. It actually fits right down in this crack, and just straighten it out. Super easy. Anybody that has these saws, I will say the one bad thing about them is they're not very rigid. See where this nice cast base mounts down to this bottom piece? It moves when it's pivoting on this. I would try and video it, but it'll never show up. But the saw actually, because of all this pressure right here, the whole head actually kind of rotates just a little bit when you have pressure on that. Once it settles all the way down, it goes back, I guess you'd say, like flat. I don't think that really affects anything because this whole thing is twisting, but it doesn't look that way when you're looking at it. So what I always do is I leave this up just a little ways, so that there's that pressure on it, which is how it will be cutting, and then straighten my fence. And like I said, it cuts just straight as an arrow. So let's take this apart, get a new blade on it, and we'll get back to cutting, or get to cutting. All right, so upon further inspection, got a brand new blade here. Mind you, I've had this saw for, holy mackerel, probably 8 years. I've only replaced the blade on it once, maybe twice. I mean, these things last a long time, and I mean, I don't use it like a production shop by any means, but they last quite a long time. So, further inspection, I mean, you're not going to really see anything on camera, but it's really not that dull. You know, it's still got pretty good edge to it. I don't really see any missing teeth. I thought I did when it was on the saw, but I don't seem to. So I'm going to go ahead and replace it anyway, but I'm going to keep that one for a backup. This is I believe a Lennox made in the USA. Yep, right there. So hopefully it'll be a good blade. That's been sitting here for probably 6 months. So, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and replace it, but maybe I didn't need to. That blade right there, I'm pretty sure I put that on when I was building one of my flatbeds for my own pickup. So it's at least 6 years old. And there for 2 or 3 years when I was in between stuff, I didn't use it that much. But the last 2 years, 2.5 years, I've used the heck out of this saw. So these blades hold up. They do really well. I'm pretty impressed with that. So anyway, I'm going to get this on, and we'll go from there. Tell you what, this is not the place to come for a how-to video. So I got the new blade on. Got it tight enough that, yes, I know I shouldn't be running it with the cover off, but got it tight enough that I'm not getting any walk in the blade, especially where the seam is. But it's, I don't know if you can see it there, but it's not quite running up against that shoulder on that wheel. It is on the bottom wheel. But that's the way the old blade was when I took the cover off. And like I said, it literally, I'm not messing with anybody. It cuts straight as a freaking arrow. So I'm not going to mess with it. But yeah, definitely, that's probably not what you want when you put a blade on the saw. So since we're standing here talking about saws, I actually have a funny story for you guys. I actually bought here a while back, I bought an Ellis 1600, the one that has the rolly wheels on the bottom, because all these years I've been learning a lot of this stuff and coming up. I've always heard, you know, the Ellis is the end of the end, and I'm not saying it's not, but I bought one. It was used, but it was in really, really good shape. You could tell it had hardly any hours on it. It had a new saw table, you know, the replaceable aluminum saw table, but he had the old one. And, you know, I mean, obviously somebody can fib about that, but it really, I don't think it had that many. It wasn't like in production use, basically. It was kind of like my shop. And I bought it, got a good, great price on it. It worked great, like it cut great, but I did not like it. I ended up selling it and keeping this goofy little thing, which is really not that little. It kind of looks little on camera, but it's really not. I'm sure there's lots of people that have them out there. They're not that small. Anyway, yeah, I actually sold that thing off because I did not like it for what I do. And that's the big thing for what I do. I'm not cutting big, 6, 8, 10, 12-inch tube all the time or, whatever, big I-beam like that. I imagine that saw is absolutely phenomenal at doing that job. But for what I do, which is quite a bit of intricate little stuff, which I make a lot of jobs more intricate than they probably need to be. I'm kind of a perfectionist. I like things to be within a 16th, That just was not the saw for me. It was absolutely amazing at hogging out material, cutting big cuts. But for cutting, you can see all these little pieces of aluminum and stuff down here. For doing stuff like that, it was not good at all, personally, my personal opinion. And I'm sure, obviously this is not the point of this video, but I'm sure anybody that watches this and is like, oh my God, you're just an idiot and didn't know how to use it. Maybe, that's fair. But I did all sorts of stuff. I talked to Ellis a couple times on different ways to set like the tension and the tension of the drop arm, because they use it had the cylinder, but it had some big springs in the back that you needed to like adjust and stuff. I think one of the little issues was the pilot valve was kind of either had something in it or it was in bad shape, because it was pretty tough to adjust that, but it just didn't work for me. So anyway, yeah, story time. There you go. This is the one thing I love about a bandsaw, is I can get 2, 3, well, this is about as max without moving this over, which you certainly can do. But getting multiple pieces in here at once and cutting them exactly the same, that's one of the things I really, really enjoy about a bandsaw over a chop saw. Chop saw you could probably, but you pretty quickly get to a limit. This I can go out to, I think it's 12 inches or whatever. So I'm only doing 2x2 right now, just square tube, pretty thin wall, cut it super quick. Yeah, so I got my support on that end. I'm just gonna match the two ends up. That's my that's my support on that end. I don't really have another short roller, so yeah, I'm gonna get that lined up and get it to my correct length, and we'll get to cutting. All right, so we're gonna cut this bottom here across here, and this upper top one is 2x2 tube, or 2-inch square tube. The big difference is we're not gonna do this bump out anymore. Talk to the customer, and we're not gonna go through with that, because that'd make a mess for these doors that are going inside of here. Oops. So we are just gonna do this dimension all the way up, and then just have nice square doors. So 11/7, but not actually, because we have 3/16 angle on both sides, so we're gonna go 3/8 under. 3/8 under. So yeah, we're gonna go 10 or 11, 6 and 5/8. So let's go get them cut. All right, as you can see, 11, 6 and 5/8. We were right on it. Yeah, so let's we'll get them clamped up. I got it supported on each end, and no, I will not leave the tape measure there. That's just how I do it on these big longer pieces like that. Normally I would bump my tape against that blade and run to the other end, but as you can see, it's back up underneath there, and I'm just not gonna do that. So, all right, saw's on, here we go. Flip that little guy up, adjust our speed here. Actually, hold on a second here. Let's, I moved this out to do some 45-degree cuts. Let's move it back in. Here we go, little tappy tap. It's good now. Okay, that could possibly change our measurements slightly. The one thing about this project over a lot of my projects is this is literally for a horse barn. 1/8 of an inch even. I hate to ever go that bad, but 1/16 of an inch, it's not gonna be a big thing. These measurements are extremely rough. 11/7 is probably, I would presume, probably at least a 1/4 inch gap on each side, I would bet. We were pretty rough with our measurements, so yeah, it's not going to affect much. So let's get back to cutting. Oh yeah, that new blade cuts nice. So the other one was definitely somewhat dull. Let's slow it down just a touch. Tubing is always so noisy. Yeah, that other blade was definitely pretty dull. Dang. All right, there we go. We'll slide these back a little bit and let's check our squareness here. Oh yeah. Nice and square there. I'm gonna have to take this one completely off here. Put it on my leg. Just to, not that I'm trying to prove anybody wrong here, but this old saw, pretty dang square. I mean, it could be off a tiny bit, but it's pretty minute. And a lot of that is just because my support out there, I bet you, yeah, there's a little bit of a gap right there. So that's just that tiny bit that it's off, if anything really. It's just that. So yeah. Little saws surprises me all the time. So anyway, there's 2 of them. We got 6 more to do. Let's get after it. All right, we just double checked our measurement. We are within a 32nd. So one thing I like to do is, because I'm forgetful, and you know, it's one of those things probably for a lot of people, it's probably commonplace, but I just started doing it recently because I'm so forgetful. I'm just going to do 11.7. Okay, then I know, then I know that obviously that's not my actual measurement, but that's the piece that I'll be looking for is the 11.7 door. So yeah, I'll mark that on both. And we're going to cut from the other end on those. We're going to straighten those or align those ends and then bring our measurement back to here or back to there. And yeah, then we'll cut our 2 11/8 ones, and then we'll have a nice full-size pieces of scrap there. So anyway, we got them all in there. I actually measured from the blade this time and pulled my measurement down there. We got 11.7 and 5/8. 11.7 and 5/8. Got about a 10 some odd inch scrap. Obviously these were 24-foot sticks, which unfortunately around here I cannot always get. I'm near Boise, Idaho, and we do have decent steel yards, but I can't always get 24-foot material. Sometimes it's only 20s, and it's kind of annoying sometimes, but I was really glad to get 24s for this project. So, all right, there's our 2 scrap pieces. They're gonna go in that god-awful mess. Please don't look too hard at that. The new table, I'm gonna try and have a really nice shelf there. It'll have all my like probably less than 4 foot or less than 3 foot scraps will all go under the table, and then all my bigger stuff will go out in the container storage. So this is, I don't even really have a, we're gonna go right there. So all right, we got our 2 11/8 pieces. Yeah, 11/8. I'm going to mark on them real quick. All right, so we got that done. I'll get those stood up over there, and we'll cut some more stuff. I'm gonna head inside for some lunch, but you guys might have seen this in the background when I was over there cutting. Yeah, I picked me up a nice Burr King, model 760. This one's actually powered 110, but you can, as I'm sure a lot of you guys know, you can make it 220, which I will probably do. Yeah, so I'll pick this up for crazy good deal, like half price or more of new. Works like a champ. Yeah, so we're gonna see that on the channel some more. I'm probably gonna get it set up on a freestanding stand. I might even actually, there's that one for that vise that I never use. I might make a new plate and mount this. I'm not sure if that'll be heavy enough. I bet it would be. So we'll see. But I'll bring you guys along for that. But I just thought I'd show you that, yeah, we got a new piece. All right, guys, back from lunch. As you can see, I'm out of breath because these pieces of 2x3 188 are heavy. So, got the door open, sun's out for once. Stopped snowing, can't even see it, so bright. So I got these in there, and all I do is the same thing. I'm gonna go ahead and cut two at once. Probably not the most kosher OSHA-approved thing, but cut two at once. This one's got a little bit of a bad spot down here a little ways. I don't know if you can kind of see it. Yeah, you can see it right there. Right there. So I gotta straighten that out, but I just got them even here. The one thing you gotta be careful with angle. A lot of times they'll be angled like that. Obviously not that extreme, but that's how they cut them for some reason. I don't know, maybe that's just my steel supplier. I don't know, but these ones are actually pretty square. So I'm just going to take and put a bar clamp on one side of this to clamp them so they don't slide independently. And then we'll get them measured out and clamped up and get them cut. Just like so. So a little clamp on there, plenty far back from the machine. And that way they will stay the same and I can do two cuts at once. All right, here we're back to our drawing. So we know we need to be 9'4", and that's from the top of the square tubing at the top to the very bottom. So we're gonna go 9'4", but then we wanna have this little ear extended up here. We're gonna extend it up 2 inches because that's the height of the ear that I'm gonna put up here on top of this to catch the round bar that makes out this outline in the barn. Probably doesn't make sense. Maybe it'll make sense when I go put it in for you. So we're gonna make these actually 9'6". Right? Yes, 9'6", and then I will be cutting a 2-inch notch out of the back side of this. So this front, the 3 inch is going to go this direction here. The 2 inch is going to go down, or actually in. So out of the 2-inch side, we'll cut a 2x2 little notch out of it. So, all right, so let's cut 4 at 9'6". All right, got her all rigged up to 9'6". Put another clamp on here on this end. Got it on my steady. Yes, that's an old medical cart. Works great for packing stuff around. I absolutely do not recommend this at home. 2 pieces angle is kind of dumb because it's something non-violent like the bandsaw. It works fine, done it 100 times, but I keep my distance and it goes just fine, speeds things up a ton. So anybody new that might be watching this, don't do this at first. I wouldn't recommend doing it at all, but don't do it at first. Do it the smart way and do one at a time. So, but definitely always a good idea to keep your angle up like that instead of on one of the sides. It just cuts a lot nicer. So, yep, we'll get her cut up and show you the finish. So here's a great example why you probably shouldn't do this. You know, because this top one, I do have this clamp here, right there, but this top one is basically free. And as you can see, it changed heights as it cut through the top one, and it very, very easily could have bound up that blade. So you want to be really careful if you're going to do something dumb like I just did. I do it all the time. I've never had any issues. That doesn't mean I couldn't at some point, but just a fair warning. It's one of those don't do as I do sort of deals. So there you go. So we got one. Actually, this is for one door, so we got to do it again. We'll pull from that end. We'll pull from that end there and come back to 9'6". Should leave us precisely a 1 foot piece left over on each section. And that'll be pretty much it for the door frame. So we just need to put them together, which that'll be exciting in of itself. It's going to be obviously a 12x9 door on a 4x10 table. That could be exciting. So we'll see how it goes. All right, so I got those pieces out. They're standing up right there. Thing you got to be really careful of, albeit somewhat obvious, is now, because steel's a little irregular, this end is not lined up, and I want to measure from here back to there. So you take the clamp loose, realign these ends, and then your scrap will have your variance, not your actual working piece. So I could run it all the way out. There'd be a foot there, so there'd be enough to clamp in the vise, but it's honestly just easier because I have this support here to just go back the other direction now. It only take a second to clamp loose and straighten those out. These factory ends aren't great because these are sheared off, but this is one of those things, again, it's for a barn, so it's not a huge thing. I'll grind those fairly smooth and we'll be golden. So this here is actually probably safer, excuse me, because I can actually hold on to these and pull this one back as it's about to come loose. Again, no, it's not OSHA approved, as I'm sure a lot of you know, but I like to just stand here and squeeze them together. I normally have a glove on, but I had to turn the camera on and off, so I'm gonna go gloveless. So I'm just gonna grab a hold of this. I'm gonna be pulling back towards me just ever so slightly and kind of squeezing down. I don't know why I'm showing you unsafe ways to do things, but I'm sure somebody does it, so. All right. There. So there. Then you can just pull back on it a little bit, and now you're good to go until it gets to the bottom one. I'm just going to do here in just a second, and we'll just hold on to them. They're a little heavy, so you got to be a little prepared, but just like that. Perfecto. All right, guys. First of all, Certiflat's gone. If I'm talking loud, I apologize. I got earplugs in. So these are gonna go just like this, and right across here, there's gonna be that piece of square tube. You'll envision it better here in a minute. But this is gonna be that ear that's gonna stick up. The tubing is actually gonna start here, be right here. Okay, if you can envision that. So we need to cut this notch out. I have got a portable bandsaw, battery powered. Also have the electric one, but have a battery powered one. I think that's going to be the easiest. I mean, yes, the plasma torch probably, but by the time you set it up, turn the air on, I could have it cut and done. So I'm just going to use this. All right, so I marked, probably can't see it, maybe right there. Yep, 2 inches in from the end, just to double check. Hooking down there to the end. And where'd our mark go? There it is. 9'4", which is exactly what we want. So I am going to, by the way, if you guys know of a better tape measure, I love these Fat Maxes when I was in the construction world with my dad. And I still tend to like them, but these ends, sorry for the shakiness. These ends, they get so, well, that's because of my finger mostly, but they bend up and then they will not stay hooked on the other end. So if you guys know of anything better, I don't really like the Milwaukee. As much as I love my Milwaukee tools, don't really like the Milwaukee tape measures. They're just flimsy and I don't like them at all. But if you guys know of any better, let me know. Put in the comments. All right, this is gonna be one of those that may be a little shaky because I don't have quite the right camera equipment yet. But so there's my mark. I'm going to take my straight edge and put it up there and score that. But the most accurate way, again, this may be elementary to some, but the most accurate way to get right on that mark is go ahead. I'm not going to be able to do it because I need 2 hands, but is to put the tip of your, I like to use a scribe instead of a pencil or a piece of chalk, you know, or soapstone. I have some soapstones, but I just don't like them. I like to be a little bit more precise than that. It's one of those things, again, using, you know, doing big old jobs, big material where, you know, 16th, quarter, even inch doesn't really matter. I'm a little more precise than that, and that's probably a downfall. But anyway, put the tip of your scribe right there, or your pencil, whatever, and then take your straight edge and just butt it up to your pencil, and then whoop, and it makes a really nice line right on your mark. All right, we got it clamped. I would definitely recommend clamping because you're going to be pushing right here and pushing that way. So I would definitely recommend clamping and spread these out to where you got enough room. It's probably 16, 18 inches there. So I'm going to actually go sit in a chair, my favorite little rolly chair, so I can get down here a little bit. And I'm going to run that saw right along that edge. Actually, I'm going to clean that. It's got a burr on it. I'm going to clean that edge up so I'm not fighting that. This one doesn't because this is my cut from the saw. But this is that factory sheared edge. So I'm actually going to clean that off so I'm not fighting it. And just cut right along that all the way down to my line. And then cut across. And it's easy as that. Safety first. I am, for many, many years in my young year, which I'm not that old, but in my 20s, I was all against, not necessarily against safety, but I was just lazy and thought I was invincible. And then one day, I got a huge doctor bill for getting a chunk in my eye. And then, of course, like, oh, it'll come out or I can get it out. And it rusted in my eye. It was a bad deal. They had to cut it out, and oh, it was horrible. It hurt. So I'm now big on these. They have that little gasket you can see there. I think these are like Hobart brand, or I don't know what they are. Anyway, yeah, I mean, you can see how beat up they are. They've protected my eyes from a lot of crap. So I'm very much an advocate for that now. Because even actually here a while back, I had a little stupid move. That was just a few months ago. I had a spurt. I was like, I'm just going to knock this burr off just real quick. And I just was like, I'll just turn away. You know, obviously I didn't like necessarily consciously go through those motions, but, you know, that was in my head. And I got a little piece in there. Luckily, I have a friend that's, she's actually a vet, but she had all sorts of antiseptic stuff, and she got a little Q-tip in there and got it out. But anyway, this is a story that's whatever, but I got lucky. So I'm even extra adamant about it now. Every little thing I wear these or wear something. So just a tip for you guys. Please be safe. Also, one thing I will say real quick, if you're going to do this, which again, this is kind of an elementary thing, but if you're going to do this, you want to do it this direction. It's probably easier on your back and everything to do it the other way around and have the saw up here going along. But then you're just guessing on as to where, because as I assume most people know, angle is not perfectly, you know, it's not only has this rounded inside corner, but it kind of tapers a little bit. So you don't know exactly where this edge is from the other side. I mean, you can measure it out and, you know, screw around with that. Actually, you can see it better on this one. This one is actually pretty square stuff, but still this tapers out just a little bit. So just a tip, do it from this side. Again, like this, without a way to raise it way up. You know, I'm going to have to sit in a chair and going to kind of be cranking in there, but it makes a much, much nicer cut. I went ahead and stopped here in this very precarious position to show you guys, like I said, until I get camera equipment where you can just sit and watch. So here's the setup I've got going. If you can see, that blade is right tight against that edge, and it's cutting right down along there like so. So, yes, I'm in it's leaning on me, and I'm holding it up here, and it's a very precarious position, but makes a really, really, really nice cut. All right, there we go. As you can see, I was kind of pushing that direction as a whole, just a little bit too much. I was just barely cutting in here and a little bit there, but it's very, very minute. It may look a lot worse on here than it really is. You can see there's just a tiny little edge right there. And there's your piece that you cut out. And now we got this really nice flat ear. And I love these bandsaws, man, especially with no cord. So nice. So you can make this as nice and straight as you want to. You can't really tell, but it is exactly on that line. And I would call it basically straight as an arrow. So to me, it's the perfect tool for this job. I don't personally like using in general, I don't like using a plasma cutter for something like this. And a grinder is just, I don't know, that's a rant in and of itself. But to me, anymore, cutting anything with a grinder is my very last resort. It's just so, it feels just so archaic for so many things. When, you know, if that's all you got, absolutely. I don't mean to sound privileged, but, you know, if it's all you got, absolutely. And you can definitely do this with that. But if you've got other tools, especially even like a corded one, sorry, right there, corded one of these, anything, I would probably even use that that big circular saw that's made for metal. I'd probably use it before I'd use a grinder if I had it. So it would probably be my last resort. If cleanliness was a factor, it would be ahead of using a plasma cutter, because the plasma cutter is going to make a bit of a mess there. But again, as you guys, if you haven't found out, you'll soon find out, I'm a bit of a perfectionist, and I like things clean from the start rather than having to do it quick, but then you spend twice as much time cleaning it up. So like this, I have no cleanup to do. I mean, if I want to, I could clean that, soften that edge, but I mean, there's nothing on it. So, you know, where the plasma cutter, you're going to have to be cleaning this, and it just, yeah, you won't get this nice square corner. That's just me and my perfectionism. So, all right, this one came out perfect. That's exactly what I want to see. You can see I kind of recut a little bit here when I got down here a ways. Oh, my holy glove. But just right at the end, I bit in just a tiny bit. But then you got a nice, oh, I got a little divot right there. But you got basically a nice straight cut there. Looks a little wavy on camera, but still better than a plasma machine or something. So yeah, there's our ears. One thing that I did that I don't know if I said before, if you're doing something like this, make sure and be very careful. You know, I had these two pieces just sitting here, and I was just going to just cut I knew I needed to cut the 2-inch side off. I was just going to cut it off and be done. Well, because it's a door, got to make sure. I don't know if anybody else is this way, but I get so wrapped up in the picture in my head, and sometimes I forget to, you know, rotate things or flip them end to end or something like that. You know, I don't know if everybody's got that problem or not, but I tend to do that. Anything that usually gets screwed up, it's because of that. So yeah, I made sure I flipped that one endo, because as you can see, this is the end I cut, and that's the factory end. So these are opposite ends because they go opposite directions. So we'll get to tacking it together. This could get exciting. That's a big old piece on a little bitty table. It's not really a small table, but it's small for this project. So, all right, so here's the setup. You can see these are considerably longer or wider than the table. So take my tubes, not necessarily needed, but I measured off the edge of the table because this table is pretty dang square. I measured here to here, got them the same, just because. And I know I got enough room from here to the end of the table for my 9'4", because it's a 10-foot table. I put these out here on the end that I will set the angle onto. Got to move the patio heater. So I clamp those on both ends. For something to set that on. This end, because this is pretty thin tubing, it's going to move quite a bit, but it's not really going to matter, because it's just going to be a big old open cavity is all it's going to be, and then there'll be doors inside of it. So it's because all this is really doing is just a place to latch into, top and bottom, but I'm going to weld a washer on there so it's not relying on the thinner metal. And then beyond that, it's literally just for spacing. That's it. So there's no reason to make it ridiculously heavy to the point that I can't do anything with it. So I made these side pieces nice heavy. They're 188 3/16 angle, because there will be a top and bottom hinge here. So I've done those pretty heavy, but there's no reason for these to be that heavy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull a tape measure either from this side to there, but that's the longer, so that'll probably be harder. I'll probably go from this side. And I'll get this measurement from the edge of the table to there again, because my table's pretty square. And I'll go down there and I'll do that same measurement. And then I'll start pulling a measurement this way. And I'll get that tube exactly where I want it long before I ever put these side pieces on. Sorry about the mess. I'm in the middle of sweeping, and yeah. And I'll get that tube right where I want it before I ever do anything else. And then I'll put these on that end as well. I'll lay the angle on here, and then I will start pulling square and figure out where I'm at from there. So let me get that tube set to this one. Again, just going to measure from here out to there, and go do that down there, and then pull my 9'4", and we should be pretty close to square without ever squaring. Another thing I can't stress enough for you guys that might be new to this, or maybe you just never thought about it, I don't know. Seam. Pay attention to where your seam is on tubing. You know, that one's my top, so I want the seam facing up because it's going to be up behind, you know, where I'm bolting it to. And this is going to be down against the ground. So this seam's pointed down. Is it a huge thing? No. It's honestly a visual more than anything, especially if you're making some sort of, you know, finished piece that's not for a barn. But in my case, actually makes it a lot easier because sometimes this seam can be a bit of a pain in the you-know-what. And I got to drill some holes and weld some washers and things on here for bolt holes and stuff. And I don't want to deal with that seam. I've had it to where I try and drill a hole there, and I've had it on the thicker stuff. I've had it break bits, but I've had to where it wants to move the drill bit around and God knows what. So I like to have the seam. My first priority is away from where I need to do anything like holes and stuff, but my main thing is visual, is to keep it facing down or facing it out of line of sight. So just a little thing. Okay, so what I did was pulled my 26, it was 26 inches over there. So pulled my 26 here, pulled my 9'4" on this edge, put a clamp. Now I can come over here and just pivot this. It'll move this a little bit. I'll have to rearrange it, but then you're not fighting it. Especially with a table like this that I've got a little bit of a crown in the center. It'll just sit there and fishtail. So put it on that corner, set that corner, and then come over here. All right, there we go. Got these sitting here, as you can see. I need to do a little bit of sanding on it. I'm not super worried about it. For critical projects, I would definitely want to grind all the mill scale off. Not real worried about it on a project like this, especially, yeah, I'm just not. I'm going to do it a little bit, especially where that paint is. Come down here, you can see, got a little bit of adjusting to do, but came out really nice. I think it's going to end up pretty nice and square. If not, we'll make it square, and should be a good project. So, all right, guys, I'm going to end it here today. It wasn't a full day's worth of work, but I got some other stuff I got to go do. So, but I just wanted to talk about real quick. Figured this would be a good spot to end part one and go to a part two. What I want to see from my channel. You know, I'm kind of new at this. I'm trying to figure out everything's going on here, and this is a huge space on YouTube to have all the fabricating and things like that. And I'm by no means on the level of some of the people on YouTube. Like, I recently started watching On Fire Welding. Great channel. That guy's killer at doing a lot of the big stuff. You know, there's cutting edge engineering, all sorts of stuff like that. Even if you guys watch like Matt's Off-Road Recovery, the stuff they're doing with that off-road wrecker, crazy. A little bit hokey sometimes, but it's still awesome. So anyway, I just want to put it out there that, you know, my main goal is not to not like have anything new and crazy, but I would love if I could help people that are kind of new to it. You know, the young teenagers and stuff that are kind of getting in, maybe going through a shop class or something, teach them a few small things. So I'm assuming probably a lot of you that's going to come across my channel may find it a little bit elementary in some spots. We'll see as it evolves and progresses. But really I'm after kind of trying to help like kids and things. Not kids, because I know YouTube gets weird about that, but you know what I mean. Young adults, young people that are trying to learn, because it's a skilled trade that I've had to completely learn on my own. Well, I haven't had to necessarily, but that's been my best avenue, is I pretty much learned it on my own. I watch a ton of, like I said, like On Fire Welding. I've learned a ton of things from his channel just in the last few months. I just, you know, so stuff that he probably thinks is elementary, you know. So anyway, I just want to put that out there. That's kind of my goal, is to kind of show some of that more basic stuff. That may change, may progress, but that's my goal. I really am into, as a whole, in daily life, I really want to help, you know, young people get into stuff like this and help them along, because I know how hard it was for me to learn it on my own. So, and I probably know way less than I suppose I should, but I know enough to be scary. So, but I try and do that. Like I've got all the scraps from my plasma table. I always like to, not for kudos or anything, don't take it that way, guys, but I like to put out a post every time I have a sheet that's mostly cut up, and you know, give it away to a local kid that's learning how to weld and can cut pieces up and learn how to cut things, and you know, whatever. That's kind of my goal in life. I like doing that. I've thought about seeing if any of them local kids that I've talked to some really cool little kid. There's one little kid here in Boise that's like 6 years old, and he's making like Idaho signs, welding wrenches together. I mean, it's super cool. But anyway, I thought about like seeing if I could kind of get them together and show them some basic stuff, kind of like that. But it's probably a whole thing with insurance that I don't want to deal with. So, but anyway, that's just kind of my goal. Thought I'd tell you guys. Seemed like a good time. Yeah, so it may be a little bit elementary, but hopefully it helps somebody. And if it did, I would super love to get a like on the video, maybe subscribe, and I'll do some more of this stuff. I'll do some much more involved stuff probably, but that's kind of where I'm at with this, and why I'm actually going to make this a part 2 instead of sitting here dragging this along. All these little steps, I'm actually going to part 2 it a little bit, and I want to put this at the end in case you don't want to learn basic stuff. I don't know. It's up to you. Also, real quick, for those that may still possibly be watching, the table build is going to happen. I'm kind of probably going to push it off a little bit till spring, because I know quite a few of you have subscribed from the Certiflat video, and probably looking forward to the whole table build. So I just wanted to update you. It's going to happen. As you can probably see, the Certiflat is gone. That left today. This table here is holding on, doing its job. But I will be doing it. I'm probably going to hold off a little bit. I've now got several projects like this that have come up. And I get into spring, a little bit farther into spring, like April, and I start getting busy with what I consider my day job. So I'll probably somewhere between first of the year and April-ish, I should be getting going on it, hopefully. So please stay tuned. It will happen. I think it's going to be pretty cool, very different, at least the idea in my head right now. It's going to be very different than probably anything you've seen on the internet. I don't know. But I like to be different. Might work, might not. We'll find out together, I guess. So it is going to happen. Don't worry. Thanks, guys. So anyway, thanks for watching, guys. And I'd love if you like, subscribe, comment. Comments are awesome. I try and get back to everybody, at least at this point. So yeah, thanks a lot, guys.